Hello, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Attendees webinar. My name is Lily. I will be your moderator today. I am the marketing manager here at Attensity. So today's webinar is a little different in the sense where we're going to show you a live demonstration of our social intelligence platform and how we're really able to surface up valuable insights. So the topic of today's Hidden Holiday Insights Tour is around Black Friday. So before we begin, I want to remind you that this webinar is being recorded and will be shared with you at the end of the show. So now I'd like to introduce you to our two presenters. They are Murray Brook and Kevin Kyle. Both of them are Attensity Solutions Engineer, and I like to call them our Solutions Expert, actually. So now I'd like to hand the stage over to Murray Brook.
Hi for everyone on the call. Thanks for joining us today. This is Murray Brook. And as Lily mentioned, we're going to take a little tour around the Thanksgiving holiday, specifically looking at Black Friday. And we're going to, try and illustrate some of the capabilities that you can derive from looking at, the social sphere, looking at topics, articles on the social sphere. So let's begin. And very quickly, not going to spend too much time on this. The interface you're actually looking at is the Attensity Q module within the Attensity Enterprise Intelligence Platform. We fairly simply spun up a relatively simple query, and I'll just quickly kind of talk to you about how this works. Ultimately, just certain search terms that we thought might be pertinent for this particular search, and you can see by color coordination those phrases, keywords that must have been included, may have been included, or were excluded. Fairly simple. So right off the bat, without knowing too much about Black Friday, let's look at where we are today, okay? So you can see from the time graph in front of you, this is actually the last 7 days, so Black Friday's been and gone, but I thought it'd be interesting just very quickly to kind of talk about what people are talking about in the aftermath. And very simply, quite, a perfect example of social is a very, very viral conversation around a specific guy who works for Target, who actually, someone recorded making a speech in preparation for the store's opening, presumably on Thanksgiving, hopefully on Black Friday, but you never know when they were sort of working, if you will. And I'm just going to link out to it and kind of play it for you. Apologies for that being a bit contrived, but as you know, whenever you click on YouTube, it comes up with an advert. Anyway, let's take a quick look at this video.
1 second. Go for it. People of Target! Brothers, sisters, hear me now! They're standing out there. Any moment now, those doors will be breached. Whatever comes through those gates, you will stand your ground with a smile on your face. They come here with bargains in their heads and fire in their eyes, and we shall give those bargains to them. We will show them that we are not just the best store in this neighborhood, but the best store anywhere, because we are more than just a store. This is a team. This is a family. This is Target!
So I love that, right? Guys embracing it all and getting in the spirit of things. And honestly, that is one of the most viral things happening today. So the screen we're looking at, top influencers, is the notion of those folks on social media who not only have a very large Twitter following, in the case of the Huffington Post, about 5 million, but also have a very high clout score. Their ability to influence or their ability to convey information that people are actually going to read and act upon. But let's kind of take a step back, okay? Let's go back, and I'll show you very briefly that this particular kind of topic has a timeline, and the timeline stretches all the way back to the 18th of November, which is actually when we started this particular query. So very quickly, I'm just going to bounce back to that point in time. A couple of ways here, a few clicks, and we'll be there momentarily. Just switch that, and I'll get to as close to a 24-hour period as I can. And then what you're actually going to see is the screen's refreshing dynamically in front of you. So the number of mentions, the number of articles a day is going to change. You can actually see we have some key level metrics at the top talking about the number of impressions, and we can get into that in a bit more detail following, a high-level sentiment analysis, and a volatility sort of score. But let's go and look at what the top terms being used in social media were. And of course, no real surprises. We're looking at the big retailers, Walmart, Amazon, Target. Notably, you could probably say that at this point, the notion that Best Buy is looking at 142 mentions in articles as opposed to Walmart at 2,000, suggests that Walmart's social campaigns, their ability to be recognized as a brand leader in Black Friday, is well understood. And of course, Amazon.com is a dominant player, and we'll actually drill down a little bit more into Amazon as we go back. But, one of the things that might be quite interesting is potentially just regrouping these by some notion of sentiment and actually, trying to understand what we're looking at. So the terms in blue realistically are associated with articles that are defined as positive in sentiment type, those in red negative, and those in gray potentially neutral. Neutral may perceive more informational. Hey, Walmart has a Black Friday advert. Hey, Amazon has a deal. Whereas these terms are going to be like, hey, this is great for business, this is bad for families. And we can actually start drilling into these and potentially just taking a look at actually what the articles behind these are. And as you'll see, I just dynamically clicked on that. It's showing me the volume of the articles. It's showing me an entity type. And of course, what we're going to see very quickly, and this is going to lead us into the second part of our conversation, hey, we typed in Black Friday, we typed in Walmart, and we said we didn't want to know about deals. But realistically, yeah, one of the most fervent things that people are viewing Black Friday as in a negative capacity is its effect on families and employees, and the fact that, there are actually going to be strikes around this particular Black Friday for certain retailers. And of course, I've looked at that in this sort of wholesale way. If I go back over to my top influencers and remember that I'm constrained to the day before, you're going to start to see, messages around sort of things being launched in time for Black Friday. Walmart's going to make a big change for Friday and things like that. And so, we can look at different methods of understanding what the social conversation is. The difference being the volume of articles by top influencers as opposed to what I just showed you in the overview, around the actual terms that people are talking about, things like that. So without much further ado, and again, that's just refreshed to be there. So again, as well as sentiment, I could absolutely, sort of dissect this by type. So these are the companies that are being talked about explicitly. These are the products that people are, surfacing the most. We can see those games consoles again. We can actually see usernames. Let's just click on an example here, particular username, and see what is going on around this. Technically, in the world of social media, you do sort of see a lot of retweeting things. But again, this is also leading us down a path that may be something of interest to understand about Black Friday, is the notion of Walmart being, a leader, but also about singularly Walmart being portrayed as probably those that are impacting their employees, negatively around Black Friday. So without much further ado, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Kevin Carl. Kevin actually will be talking a little bit more about the Black Friday strike events. And I'm quickly going to hand him the control of the WebEx, so he'll be able to talk to you a little bit. But we'll continue the conversation and see what Kevin can enlighten us with around Black Friday as it relates to protests, relates to strikes.
Thank you, Murray, and yes, I sure am. Thank you, Murray, for that introduction. And I apologize for my voice. It's actually much better today than yesterday, but I did lose my voice over the weekend. But hopefully you guys can understand me okay. So, yeah, we kind of saw this as a potential thing that would be talked about, which is around strikes. So at first we're talking mostly around Walmart. When we look and see what's happening, so as you see my screen here, I'm looking at the whole week leading up to Black Friday. And again, it's understandable the conversations were light and they picked up as we got closer to the Black Friday event. And if we start looking at how our product automatically clusters, so the clustering technology is determining what is being talked about. So instead of you having to look at everything, we can mine through all the thousands and thousands of social articles out there, and we start organizing those and start telling you kind of what's being talked about. And by far, Walmart and their workers are kind of sucking up most of the oxygen out there around this topic for this particular time period that I'm looking at. Now, I did notice that things were changing as things got closer, and we can drill into these, and that's obviously, we can obviously drill into any one of these data points. But one of the things that we have this in our product is we have some technology around discovery. So this discovery dashboard, it has some automated discovery technology that's built into it that allows us to start discovering other things that are happening. It finds overlapping themes, repetitive themes, and we can actually start comparing things over time. And one thing I noticed when I was looking through the data here is early on, we're taking a chunk of time, roughly 4 hours. We're chunking up if there's enough statistical relevant data there, we'll actually look at all that data as an aggregate, and we'll start looking for all kinds of co-occurring things happening in that data, and then we start discovering things that are mentioned quite a bit. And early on, so you look here on this first donut over here, it says November 26th at 1:27 p.m. I'm in Atlanta. This is all East Coast time zone. It's showing you kind of for the period around this time, we're talking mostly all the things are all around Walmart, and workers, and Apple, or Broken, or Flash. Those are kind of the things that are happening. And as I go through and go to the 26 and continue on to the 26 protest, Walmart, there's one thing in here about this protest, Walmart. So early on, there wasn't a lot of diversity in the conversation. There's some, but there wasn't a ton. And as we got closer to the event, I started seeing a lot more things in here about protest of Ferguson and of Walmart. We saw things in here about crowds were thinning because the stores were closing. There was escalation. The governor spoke. There's some escalating things happening in Missouri. Of course, there was the Walmart things going on. There's stuff happening in New York. So the topics were getting, the conversation was getting more diverse as the day was going on. One thing, the volume was increasing, which I'm sure contributed to that. But even though we're talking about Black Friday and we're talking about strikes right here, what's really important here, I think that something that you can take away from it, like a good use case could be that, you know, you're delivering a new product launch for your company, and you need to get some key metrics. So you want to know exactly what's being talked about. You want to provide snippets of the conversations going on. So you can have a very targeted topic out there, and this will start showing you think you're looking for one thing. This will actually let you know there's other things happening in the data as well. And, of course, everything is drillable. So if I want to drill into this one regarding Missouri, I can click here. We can go in here and see more things being talked about, either through mainstream news articles or from Twitter articles. We'll see what's being talked about here. Just like any other area in the application, you're always tethered to the underlying data. We can also pull in, we can change our time frames. If I want to move my time frames up or change my time frames, we can do all that. We can also get into looking at spikes. So I'm looking right here, a thing about crowds were thinning. St. Louis area malls were closed. So if there's spiking things for the time period that we're looking at, as I move my time sliders around, those spiking themes, we'll get snippets of those conversations. And again, this is just sampling of the many thousands that are out there. Can get more, you can actually get other examples. Again, there's a lot of echoing and retweets and different articles, some from Twitter, some from mainstream news articles, other ones from mainstream news that are using social media to advertise that. But again, this can help you if you need not just anecdotal stories, but you actually want real examples of how your product's being talked about, or your events, or anything that you're interested in looking at through social, looking at the spikes, looking at the discovery conversations of co-occurring things that are happening, or just looking back on the overview and looking at the overall cluster to see what is being talked about most for my given filters, be it by sentiment, by gender, by time, whatever you're constraining by, we can pick up on that. You'll see that most of this data is not very sentimental. It's not sentimental because a lot of this is just kind of reporting on what they're hearing. Either they're just echoing what they hear, these are a lot of the mainstream articles were tweeting a lot of things about things that were being said. So there's a lot of statements being said. There are some sentimental things. So one thing I noticed, especially if I zoom in on just the 28th, is that Solange Knowles, Beyonce's sister, she, I guess she canceled or she postponed the release of one of her sneakers that she was going to be selling on Black Friday. And so there's a lot of news that, probably from a marketing standpoint, from an awareness standpoint, it definitely created a lot of awareness by the fact of postponing this, because there was a lot of other things being postponed about that, but I definitely was seeing the word postponed and Puma and her name mentioned quite a bit as I drilled into these dates here. For a while there, that was the biggest thing being talked about, was just the fact that this was canceled and it went viral pretty quickly, that she canceled her sneaker collection on Black Friday. So those are some of the insights that we learned from just looking at the strikes. So we built a separate topic through our topic definition. We're focused mostly on just words around strikes and protests, as opposed to overall sales and other promotions around Black Friday. We want to look mostly just at things that mention protests and strikes. With that, I want to give it back to Murray.
So Kevin, just hang there for a second, buddy. I just wanted to make a couple of comments around that. Why we thought that was kind of powerful is, take yourself back to when we started the query and we thought that the strike protests were going to be kind of significant. We thought about the aftermath of its impact on, certain retailers, certain brands, but also the bigger conversation about the impact of Thanksgiving on American families, the changing nature of holidays as we know them. And really, this is quite interesting. Obviously, very significant and tragic events in Ferguson, also in New York City, that really, in the same context as Black Friday, so the topic that you're looking at includes similar search terms around Black Friday, really muted a lot of the retail conversation. And that's important for companies to understand. It's important for brands to understand. Obviously there are very valid reasons why the conversations were influenced the way they were, but, being able to react to that, being aware of that, and also, as we've seen, making if you will, a moral step to not necessarily promote yourself at a time when others are distressed. Hopefully that speaks to the character of the person as they want to be represented on social. And that's really what we're trying to derive out of this. Thanks, Kevin. Do you want to go ahead and throw me the ball again?
I sure do. Yep, there you go, Murray.
All righty, and I will get my screen back up. And thanks for bearing with us, guys, on that. So, one of the, sorry, I'm jumping between screens here. One of the other interesting things here, if I just reset all my filters so I get back to let's say, the larger timeline, let me take it all the way back to the 18th and then to current so I get the full picture of everything that's happening. One of the things we talked about, we obviously have timelines and we can see the growth in article volume over the specific days. We can actually look dynamically at the topics of interest. But there are other things to consider, and this one was particular interest to me, so some of the folks on the phone are going to pick up the fact that actually I'm an Englishman living out here in California. But, we technically can acquire demographic information as part of that social feed as well. And that includes not only geographic, but also gender. And so, large volume of topics, articles in United States. Of course, Thanksgiving is a United States holiday. What I was particularly interested in is this sort of anomaly that I don't know how well you can make that out over WebEx, but actually the United Kingdom has a fairly high volume of articles, as opposed to other European countries and things like that. So let's just drill down and actually take a look. And that is displaying a map of the United Kingdom, England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. So I'm getting a notion now that Black Friday is being talked about in quite high volumes, in the United Kingdom. And so, what that led us to do, similarly to, excuse me one second, similarly to the concept that we sort of created a topic around Black Friday strikes, we created a topic called Black Friday Abroad, quick view at the search terms, nothing more than just Black Friday, UK, British, England, Ireland. You know, could have been more expansive, but ultimately that's what we kind of wanted to show. You know, and again, I can kind of see this timeline. Now, this timeline is quite interesting to me because I'm seeing sort of an anomaly here on the 22nd and 23rd and then a dip as opposed to what I'd seen originally. So I'm like, okay, what is that anomaly? What are those articles about? Again, you can drill into this. I'm like, you know, okay, a lot of Facebook posts, a lot of posts around just kind of, if you will, deals and things, not something I'm really interested in. So what I can do very quickly is I can just say, hey, just mute Facebook for a second, the Facebook posts. My screens are going to refresh. I'm actually going to see if there were other topics out there outside of just that Facebook kind of things that were of interest, and they really weren't. So I can kind of mute noise when it's appropriate and still give myself, you know, relevant data and things like that. So coming down, in fact, actually what I want to do, I always like to do it this way, and it's really up to anybody who's using the interface. I like to come back to top influencers. I think of it like the headlines of the newspapers, you know, what's going on in the world, that kind of stuff. And, you know, as we'll see, what I just need to do here 1 second is just jump my time range out again to be the whole term of the actual conversation. And the top influencers will come, and we'll start to see, you know, hey, Wall Street Journal, Black Friday is just as bananas in the UK. And this was kind of interesting to me. I haven't lived in the UK in 10 years. But I was like, what has Black Friday really got to do with the United Kingdom? And so, you know, I'm going to click on this article. I'm going to reach out and actually go and look at the article, you know, from the Wall Street Journal. And you've got this notion now that the Black Friday chaos is hitting the UK. We can actually look, you know, people are rushing out to Black Friday retailers. I think what's not loading that probably should, and we can see it here. You've got this, you know, sort of unanimated but very telling story about how Black Friday is impacting the UK. And the fact that you're seeing scenes here, Black Friday chaos hits the UK, is very similar to what we've seen over in the United States. So, you know, we're going to come back here and we're going to take a look at one other article. What we're seeing here is a conversation written by The Guardian that Cyber Monday sales were very big, Cyber Monday sales were eclipsed by the Black Friday sales. Why is this of interest? Well, last year, the big money in the UK was around Cyber Monday. You know, Black Friday is not a holiday. Thanksgiving is not a holiday in the UK. It really has nothing to do with us. But retailers had tagged on to the leader in online Black Friday, Amazon.com, and therefore Amazon.co.uk. And over a series of years of messaging, the British public, you know, have now taken on this mantra of, you know, Black Friday is a day when retail sales happen. And what's kind of sort of amazing is if you actually look at this bit here, and I'll give a little bit of background to this, Boxing Day is the day after Christmas. It has traditionally and for many, many years been the most big retail shopping day of the year for British people, and it has simply been replaced in a very short span. Amazon introduced Black Friday to the UK in 2010, and within 4 years, the whole tradition of Boxing Day shopping has been usurped, as the article says, by an American tradition that really means nothing to the UK people. And we thought that was, you know, really insightful and really interesting. You know, just the impact that potentially social, online is having, you know, across the world. And so, you know, we sort of wanted to, you know, understand that and find out. And there are lots of sentiments. So we'll go back to our overview. And at this point, you know, we can be a bit more granular about what we're looking at than just the top influencers. You know, you'll see these screens populate again. I have Facebook constrained out, and again, I can move these around as I sort of wish to. So, you know, a couple of things to understand here. Realistically, maybe let's put it actually by type here. You know, you can see Amazon, as we'd expect, but Apple's come up here. And why is Apple in the news specifically in the UK? So let's open that up and take a look. And as the screen kind of comes up and the articles load in front of me, I'm going to be understanding what it is that Apple have done or said around Black Friday that ultimately, you know, have sort of led to some views and things like that. I've also got, now I see it, a lot of news articles, okay, a lot of blogs, you know, kind of heavily influenced. Do you imagine a news or a blog page? It has multiple articles in it. So I'm going to jump out to my screen and say, hang on a second, let me rethink that. I want Twitter-only data. And very simply, I can constrain out every other source except for Twitter. It's just going to take a few seconds to refresh the screen. And then I can understand from a non-news, non-blog, non-forum perspective, you know, exactly what these topics are. Because realistically, the way we understand the world, you know, it comes down to Twitter being very short pieces of information in high volume, potentially very emotional but not very insightful, against the news that's out there, deep, rich, verbose articles with a lot of different things written in them, a lot of different stories and capabilities, you know, there. So again, I have this running across the full, you know, month or so, so it is taking just a few seconds to kind of come back. And let me try Apple again, see if it's the same thing. Is it just information about Apple and its profits and its products? Is there something more that anybody said pertaining to Apple from a purely Twitter-based social perspective? And we can see, obviously, dominated, you know, by certain topics. But there was one here that kind of came to my mind. Apple offers no UK discounts. And it seemed fairly interesting to me, and as you can see, I just scroll down and kind of come, come through. Apple has snubbed the UK on Black Friday. Sorry, hopefully you can see my cursor. And this actually goes to the notion that in the United States, Apple had discounted some of its products, its notebooks, its pads, its phones, but over in the UK it absolutely hadn't. But there was an expectation in the UK that it would do. So, you know, did Apple fall foul of a little marketing mishap there? Who knows? I mean, that may have actually been part of their design, but ultimately, you know, the UK is talking about the fact that we were singled out to be, you know, for, I would say, deferential treatment, if you will. But then, you know, realistically, let me just take one more look at some of these articles down here as we kind of draw the insights piece to a close. You know, again, you can sort of see hashtags, you can sort of see usernames, you can sort of see terms. We can do it by sentiment. Let's just take a quick look at the hashtag @BlackFriday and see if there's anything interesting here. You know, and as we go down, we'll sort of see, let's see a couple of things here. The best Black Friday tweets from, you know, UK retailers. So this, again, is sort of interesting to me. This is the concept that retailers in the UK understand that Black Friday happens in the US, but also know that it's going to port over to the UK. And it's the UK this year. Next year, France, Germany, Spain, Italy. The year after that, you know, I think there are already comparisons being drawn between, you know, the launch of the Chinese, you know, online shopping sites and the Chinese holiday and how they may influence things as well. And of course, just lots of articles here, well-placed, elegant articles from people around, hey, retweet our brand name and you could be put into a competition. No, this is actually quite a nice one just from a sort of grocery store retailer, and it's basically saying, hey, we did at Black Friday last week, we called it Friday. It means everyday low prices, you know, and again, whether it's florists, whether it's bicycles, you know, Amazon did this lovely little thing around licorice, right? And it said retweet if you love it or fave if you hate it. So understanding that they can't control the metrics in Twitter, they can still evolve the conversation to say, hey, well, 204 people hate it and 143 like it. But again, it's Amazon UK getting brand recognition. And I'll close with this one. This one was sort of hysterical to me a little bit this morning when I first saw it. So the notion is that, you know, Black Friday shoppers in person in the UK are just coming to terms with the concept of these big, you know, almost heavily discounted TVs, and they're behaving in a certain manner. And this is actually a screen depiction from the movie The Dark Knight Rises, where you've got Batman holding a TV and his Tesco bag, the local grocery store, and he's being, you know, essentially in combat with Bane, the bad guy from the movie. And it's representative, you know, here's the guy saying, just got back from Tesco, unbelievable how angry everyone is Black Friday. So, you know, good and bad, we all love to hate Black Friday. It's influencing our families, our holidays, but it is also something that we are perpetuating ourselves, and where will it go next? So, with that, absolutely open the floor to any comments, conversations, any questions that people want to have. But, just a brief look into how we're able to surface insights around Black Friday and how stories evolve in social, and you can use the Attensity Q tool, the interface we were looking at, to kind of follow, track, confirm, and then obviously make decisions about that.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Murray. Thank you, Kevin. So it looks like I don't see any questions from the field, but
okay.
Thank you so much for this presentation. It's been very insightful. And for the audience out there, if you have additional questions around this webinar or around social analytics, you have, we can be contacted on our website, on our Contact Us page. We can definitely show you a demo of a product within your custom environment as well. So please contact us, and we always want you to engage with us via Twitter as well. So with that note, we're going to sign off, and again, thank you both.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for taking some time. Happy holidays to everybody who joined, and please feel free to reach out to us. And we will be following up with webinars probably one a month, Lily, is that right?
Yes, Product Tours will be once a month, yeah.
Okay, so we'll be coming up with new topics, new things to look at, and of course, if you require anything more definitive than that, please reach out to us, and we'll be happy to assist. Thank you, everybody.